The game just spent days talking like smoke was coming for TDE, and now the second top dog gets involved, the whole thing cools off like somebody yanked the plug out the wall. That is not warrior energy. That is a man stomping around the board, knocking pieces over with his mouth, then realizing way too late the king on the other side never even had to stand up. And what burns me up is the switch up wasn't subtle either. It was loud, messy, public, and embarrassingly easy to track. Hit subscribe now, cost you nothing. Missing the next mess over here? That price tag hurts way more. This past week, the game found himself right in the middle of a weird standoff with TDE and Kendrick Lamar after going from peace talk with Stat Quo to internet smoke in the comments. The line everybody grabbed was him saying he was going to reveal every clown at the circus. And then last night, MacWop goes live talking about a call from the higher-ups telling everybody to leave it alone. Same players, same tension, completely different posture by the end. Let me walk y'all through why this irritated me so much, because the order of events is the whole story here. The first thing sitting on the board is that Stat Quo conversation. In that moment, the message coming from Game was clean. He didn't want no beef and he didn't want no problems. That matters because it wasn't vague. It wasn't a half joke. It wasn't one of those slippery celebrity answers where somebody grins, dodges, and leaves room to spin it later. Nah, that was supposed to sound like a man drawing a line and choosing not to cross it. So if you tell people you're not looking for war, then jump online later sounding like you've got circus tents to burn down, I'm already looking at you sideways. Controlled fury, remember? That kind. Because to me, that's not mystery, that's instability. And then came that comment, reveal every clown at the circus. Now listen to the shift in temperature. 1 minute it's no beef, no problems, keep it calm. Next minute is carnival smoke, public embarrassment, exposed faces, whole big performance energy. That's not a tiny difference in wording. That's a full costume change. That's somebody walking out the side door in church shoes and re-entering through the front in combat boots. I don't need outside gossip to tell me that. I don't need a detective board with red string. The contrast is sitting right there in the language. When your tone changes that hard, everybody watching starts recalculating. Fans start guessing, opponents start laughing, allies start calling, and the coacher starts asking the same question I asked. So which one is the real position? That's where the next square gets occupied. According to the paste, a lot of people started thinking something bigger was coming because G-Magic, identified there as Game's security guard, was claiming Game was in the studio getting ready to make a diss track aimed either at Kendrick or TDE members. Now I want y'all to hear why that matters. Not because the diss exists, we never got that. Not because Kendrick ever had to answer, we never got that either. It matters because once In the Studio enters the chat, you've moved this from messy talk into possible action. You don't get to act shocked that people took it seriously after that. If your side is feeding language like that into the room, don't come back later pretending everybody else hallucinated the tension. And while all that is hanging in the air, the TDE side in this paste is not playing sleep. Keem and MacWop keep getting named as the loudest ones in the camp, the ones staying on his neck, the ones not letting him slide back into comfort after those comments. I actually think this part explains why the whole energy started shaking. Because talking big into the internet is one thing. Getting needled by people tied to the machine you were poking is different. That's when emotions stop being abstract. That's when irritation turns personal. The paste even says Game had to be vocal that he didn't like what was being said about him. Exactly. That right there is the first honest note in the whole song. Not the circus talk, not the studio chatter. The honest note is that he didn't like the pressure coming back. Quick post check, because this is where a lot of people miss the shape of it. The online crowd hears beef and thinks one explosive moment. That's not what this looks like. This looks like pressure building in layers. First the peaceful posture, then the comment smoke, then the studio rumor, then the TDE voices pushing back, then the complaint about those voices. That sequence matters because it tells you this wasn't one bold swing. It was a series of emotional moves, each one leaving the next piece more exposed than the last. Now we get to the live, and this is where the board flips from noisy to revealing. MacWop says he got a call from his big dog because that person got a call, and the instruction was simple. Leave it alone. Don't push it any further. Then it gets even plainer. Told him to stand down. Told him to chill. That is the line that changes the whole reading, not because it sounds dramatic, because it sounds organized. That doesn't read like random fans calming down. That reads like rank. That reads like chain of command. That reads like somebody higher than the usual internet shouting decided the game was getting too close to a line nobody wanted crossed. And the second I hear "stand down," I stop hearing this as rap chaos and start hearing it as internal management. MacWop's language on that live is messy, funny, and accidentally revealing all at once. He's saying red alert, saying BT tap in, saying white flagged up, saying he's got to be quiet, saying folks are calling in, saying he can't say too much. And that mix right there is louder than polished PR would have been. Because polished PR lies too neatly. This sounds like a man trying to joke through instructions he has already accepted. It sounds like somebody who would gladly keep cooking if the call had never come. That's why I buy the temperature change, not because it came wrapped in a press statement, because it came wrapped in a half-contained laugh and a bunch of coded panic phrases that only show up when the room has actually changed. And then we hit the sharpest quote in the whole paste, the one that makes the stand down feel downright humiliating. "Please tell MacWop, tell Keem to chill. Please, I don't want no smoke, blood." Bruh, that is not how somebody talks when they're still stealing. That is how somebody sounds when the noise got way more real than they wanted. And before anybody twists this, I'm not saying fear in some cartoon sense. I'm saying loss of leverage. There's a difference. A man can still bark and lose leverage. A man can still posture and realize the room he was trying to provoke has deeper roots, tighter lines, and bigger phones than he counted on. That's what that plea sounds like to me. Not fear theater, leverage evaporating in public. Here's another layer people shouldn't skip. The paste keeps circling one idea. Drake would want two West Coast artists going at each other. It says that more than once, and that repetition matters. Because whether you agree with it or not, the people in this story are clearly thinking beyond bars. They're thinking region. They're thinking affiliation. They're thinking who benefits if the coast starts cracking itself open from the inside. The mention of Dr. Dre, the mention of Compton, the mention of Lefty Gunplay, the mention of Too Hard for the Radio, all of that is being used in the paste to frame this like a local argument with a larger audience waiting to profit from the confusion. So when the call comes telling people to cool it, it doesn't just sound like y'all stop tweeting. It sounds like we are not turning this into somebody else's entertainment. That's why I keep coming back to the sequence instead of the noise. Peace talk with StatQuo, circus comment online, studio chatter through G-Magic, TDE voices pushing, complaint about those voices, then the call, then the coded stand down language on live, then everybody trying to dress it up as peace. That is a spine, and once that spine is in place, every little phrase starts carrying more weight than it would by itself. You don't need 10 outside stories. This one set of events already tells you enough if you listen in order. Now, let me isolate the tiny details, because this is where the subtext starts lifting heavier than the headlines. The word I can't get past is higher-ups. Not because it's flashy, because it's deliberately vague. When people actually feel free, they name names. When people are speaking under instruction, they reach for umbrellas. Higher-ups is an umbrella word. It keeps the hierarchy visible without making the hierarchy explicit. Then MacWop keeps pulling Top Dog toward the center anyway, saying he thinks Top is the one making the moves, saying when Top gets on the phone, things start moving in real time. That combo is fascinating. First the vague cover, then the specific gravitational pull. That tells me everybody already knows who carries weight even when they're pretending not to spell it out. Second detail, red alert. He says it more than once. That's not a phrase you use for a calm little misunderstanding. That's the kind of wording people use when a situation has crossed from funny into potentially damaging. It sounds like stop the bleeding language. It sounds like whatever freedom existed a second ago just got narrowed by somebody with broader vision. That phrase also tells me the people inside this mess knew the temperature had become public enough to require a coordinated cool down. You don't announce red alert because one tweet annoyed you. You do that when the whole board is in danger of getting messy. Third detail, red, white flagged up. I love that ugly phrasing because it says more than a polished sentence would have said. It sounds clumsy because the idea itself is clumsy.
Nobody involved wants to call it surrender cleanly, but nobody can fully hide the optics either. So what leaks out is this half-joking, half-serious language, where everybody understands what is being said without wanting to state it in perfect words. That's when I know the moment is real. Real mess is never elegant. Real mess stumbles while telling on itself. And the most revealing phrase of all might be, "I don't want no smoke, blood." That sentence is not interesting because it's dramatic. It's interesting because it clashes with the previous posturing so hard that it tears the mask. Everybody quoted the circus energy. I'm staring at the retreat language, because once both exist in the same story, the question stops being who was tougher and becomes who misread the room worst. To me, that answer is obvious. If you start in one emotional lane and finish in the complete opposite lane, you weren't controlling the situation. You were reacting to it. So when people call this a peace treaty, I get it. But I also think that phrase is doing a lot of makeup work. Peace treaty sounds mutual, strategic, mature, balanced. Maybe some of that is true, but the texture of the paste feels more uneven than that. It feels like one side had to be reminded how many pieces were actually on the board.
It feels like one side realized the joke wasn't staying funny. It feels like the adults in the room stepped in before a bunch of loud, smaller moves created a bigger regional headache nobody wanted. And that brings me to the take I think matters more than all the fake macho chatter. This was never just about whether the game was going to rap at Kendrick. That's the bait version. The deeper version is that industry structure stepped on internet emotion. That's what happened here. Strip the slang off it and that's the whole thing. The comments, the live, the side voices, the public irritation, all of it ran into hierarchy, ran into affiliation, ran into the reality that some names don't need to raise their voice to change the room. Everybody wants to debate whether the game was serious, whether Kendrick would have responded, whether Mac-Wop and Keem were doing too much, whether Drake would have enjoyed the chaos. Cool, debate all that. But the boardroom read is sitting right there in plain sight. The second this situation risked becoming a bad look for the coast, the people with actual standing started reordering the pieces. Not the people with the loudest comment fingers, the people with the longest reach. That's industry politics 101. The internet loves conflict, the machine loves control. And when those two collide, control almost always wins. That's also why I'm not treating this like some noble peace sermon. Nah, this sounds more like containment. It sounds like the house decided the side room had gotten too loud. It sounds like the folks with legacy attached to the region were not about to let one unstable back and forth turn into outside content for people who would love to see that fracture. When the pace keeps bringing up what Drake would want, that's not random paranoia inside the story. That's a sign that the people involved are thinking about optics, beneficiaries, and political fallout, not just pride. Once that frame enters the room, every move becomes bigger than one man's ego. And here's the sentence I'd put on the screen if I wanted the whole mess reduced to one truth. This wasn't a diss getting canceled. This was hierarchy reminding a loud room who still controls the lights. That's the real sting. Because a real battle narrative lets everybody pretend it's about courage. This one doesn't. This one smells like rank. It sounds like network discipline. It moves like people protecting institutions, alliances, and regional image before they protect individual pride. And if you're the game in that scenario, the most brutal part isn't even the mockery. It's realizing the most important move on the board happened on a phone call you didn't control. Now, add one more piece that should make everybody pay attention. Punch is supposed to make a guest appearance on the Third Verse podcast with Stat Quo and Justin Hunt. That matters because if this gets addressed there, then the cleanup doesn't stay in lives and comment sections. It graduates into controlled conversation. See what I mean? Same pattern, less chaos, more curation. Less random smoke, more managed framing. That's not accidental. That's what systems do when a messy story needs boundaries. So no, I'm not buying the cute version where everybody just hugged it out because wisdom suddenly fell from the sky. I think the room got reminded what was at stake, who had authority, and how ugly it would look if this kept spiraling. And once that reminder landed, all the circus energy started sounding real flimsy. Talk greasy in comments if you want. Hint at studio action if you want. If the people above the noise decide the noise is bad for business, bad for legacy, or bad for the coast, your swagger gets put on a leash real fast. Argue with the emotion if you want. You still can't ignore the structure.
So let's push the board forward and call the next moves. Because from here, the game only has 3 paths, and every single one comes with a trap. Move 1. He goes quiet and tries to act like this whole thing naturally cooled off on his own.
That's the safest square, and it still fails him. Why? Because silence after public heat doesn't read like control when the audience already heard the stand-down language. If he disappears, people won't say, "Wow, mature resolution." They'll say, "Yeah, that phone call settled him." Watch for this signal soon. No direct smoke, no sharp captions, nothing spicy aimed at TDE, just a careful drift into other topics. If that happens, then the quiet won't feel mysterious. It'll feel supervised. Move 2. He tries to sneak the energy back through comments, side remarks, or one of those half-serious little jabs meant to test the temperature without fully reopening the wound. That move also fails, because now the room is alert to inconsistency. The second he swerves back into clown talk or sideways teasing, everybody is going to drag the contrast right back up. They'll hold the peace language in one hand and the new jab in the other and ask which version is real. That kind of flip damages him more now than it would have earlier, because the contradiction is already the story. Watch for the signal here, a playful-looking remark that still carries a blade, something designed to give him deniability while restarting attention. If that pops up, expect immediate clowning, not fear. Move 3. He tries to outsource the response. No full diss, no direct statement, just letting interviews, podcasts, or people around him do the shaping while he stays one step removed. On paper, that sounds smart. On this board, it still loses. Because once a situation has already been framed as higher-up stepped in, proxy smoke doesn't look strategic. It looks like a man borrowing voices after his own got checked. And if bigger names like Punch end up talking in more controlled spaces, that proxy route gets crowded fast. Watch for the signal on this one. Somebody adjacent starts sounding extra bold while Game himself stays vague. If you see that split, that's not power, that's distance management. And here's the funny part. TDE doesn't even need to overplay this. Their smartest move is patience. If Keem and MacWop keep stomping around too hard, they risk giving him sympathy he hasn't earned. But if they stay measured, let the stand down breathe, and keep the energy disciplined, then the imbalance stays visible all by itself. That's what good positioning looks like. You don't chase a piece that already walked into a bad square. You let the board punish it. As for Kendrick, the cleanest future is still the one where he never touches this directly. Not because he can't, because he doesn't have to. The longer that remains true, the worse this whole episode ages for Game. A man can survive losing a bar fight. It's much harder to survive looking like you shadowboxed yourself into a phone call ending. And if the regional politics angle is really as strong as it sounds inside this paste, then everybody with something to protect will keep nudging the story toward calm language, polished explanations, and selective appearances. So, if you want my read on the next 3 moves of this chess match, here it is. Quiet fails because it confirms the call. Sneak dissing fails because it confirms the contradiction. Proxy talking fails because it confirms the leash. None of those routes gives him the image reset he needs. They just change the flavor of the same problem. Save this moment in your head, because the next visible sign won't be some dramatic explosion. It'll be behavior. Who talks, who doesn't, who jokes, who stays polished, who starts acting like the room suddenly got very professional. And that's why this whole thing is more revealing than explosive. The loudest part already happened. From here, the board tells the truth in smaller motions. Who stands still? Who tries to reclaim face? Who lets the machine do the cleanup? Keep your eye there. That's where the next answer is coming from, and it won't flatter everybody involved. Thanks for watching Celeb Sphere. If you enjoyed uncovering the real story, smash that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss when we expose what everyone else is too scared to say. Ring that bell for notifications, and if you want more truth bombs like this, click on one of these videos next. Trust me, you'll want to see what we found.